Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel and to another list building video, as I like to call them, list spams. This today is going to be for the Fortress Europe British. So I don't know if all of you remember, but Fortress Europe was a book brought out as a stopgap while everything got updated for the new late war system. Kind of more represents Sicily, Italy. It's a kind of like early late war. You can have it as, and it's kind of like just a little bridge over from mid-war as well. So with the British, we only have 4 formations in the book, and we had to make do with this for quite a while until the D-Day British book came out. But it gave us access to the Firefly and M10 17-pounders, so we had like a bit of a punch when it came to it. So all the lists are 100 points, ideally using an attacking stance, and I try to have the perfect amount of units for reserves. So by that I mean like limited to about 40 points. So let's have a little look at the lists. So the first formation is the Sherman armoured troops. So now we have the Fireflies, so giving us some 17-pounder support. It's not the biggest formation. We could add the M10s, drop the M10s I mean, and have some more Shermans. We do have some Recce in the formation and form the Stuarts, who now have Recce and Scout, but we'll have a look at them. So in support, as mentioned, we have some M10s, British 25-pounders, an OP Kitty Hawks because they had leftover points, and a rifle platoon. And we have the artillery expert command card because I'm only making the lists from this book, so I was quite stuck for options. So the Sherman from mid-war, so it is careful like it was back then, it's confident, so it's lost the last stand, and it's trained on a 4+. So front armor 6, decent enough. Obviously there's plenty of guns out there that will go straight through you. Movement wise, it's standard for a medium tank. It has anti-tank 10 gun, so you'll struggle against heavier armor, but it's got a 3+ firepower, and it has 4 MGs. So note, unlike the Americans, it does not have 50 cals. Okay, now the interesting bit, the Firefly. So stat-wise, and armor is the same as the Sherman, apart from it has protected ammo, so we'll get back in on a 3+. But the obvious thing is the 17-pounder gun, so outranging the 75mm and with a much better anti-tank of 14, can punch through Tigers at long range, which is nice. 3+ firepower, but it doesn't have HE, and it also loses 1 MG slot as well, so 3 and 3 rather than being 4 and 4. But we only have 2 of them in the formation, so look after them, and that was the main reason why I've included the M10s, is just to get a few more 17-pounders involved. Okay, so the Stuart is a little bit different now from the Honey Stuarts that we've seen before. They're careful now, they're confident, they counterattack, and last stands a 5+ because these are actually scout units. As you can see, it has scout and spearhead. It is trained on a 4+, but has a 5+ scout assault. Front armor 4, side 3, top 1, meaning it is 1 better than it was in mid-war. Obviously, it's quite a nippy little tank as it was back then. The gun isn't amazing, it's only anti-tank 7 with a 4+ firepower, and it's overworked, so +1 harder if you moved, but it has a decent output of machine guns, and it also has self-defense AA as well. Next, we have the Italy Churchill tank squadron. So luckily we can actually have Shermans in this formation as well, so which I have included. So we have 2 units of 3 Churchills, the HQ of 2, and then 3 Shermans and a Firefly as well. Supporting it, we have the Daimler armoured car, so we have our spearhead, more M10s for the 17-pounder, 25-pounders, an OP, Kitty Hawks, and a rifle platoon. So no room for command cards here. Okay, so the Churchill Italy, careful, confident, trained, and has a 3+ counterattack and remount, making it excellent to go into assaults. Another thing making it good in assaults is its front 8, so can bounce quite a decent lot of stuff at long range, impervious to a lot of armor, only being able to be bailed by the 75mm gun. Side is good as well on a 7, meaning you can risk Panzerfaust and Panzerschrecks. And top armor 2, meaning if the infantry haven't got anti-tank weapons, it's impervious in assaults. It is slow, however, just about keeping up with the infantry, but with a good cross-check. The gun, the 6-pounder, does let it down slightly. It's anti-tank 10, but a 4 plus firepower, and it has 4 MGs as well. But a bit of a heavy armoured slug going up the table with this one. So armour done, we're on to the 2 infantry formations. So we have a rifle company. So we have a HQ with 2 platoons of infantry, some mortars and universal carriers. So a slight mistake with this one. I thought the +1 was to give it a Piat, but to give it a boys instead. So you can just drop that extra point and give yourself a lucky card instead, because that would just be so much better. Supporting, we have some M10s, 25-pounders, an OP, Kitty Hawks, Shermans and Churchill. So pretty much every support option pretty much you can get, and again we have artillery expert. Okay, so we have the rifle platoon, careful, confident, trained, and it has a 3+ counterattack and a 3+ assault, so pretty good. You can upgrade them to New Zealanders, giving them a rally of a 3+ stack, but it does cost you quite a bit. Or you can upgrade the formation to an Indian rifle company, so your enemy have to reroll successful counterattacks, but only the first one. It's not every time. So the first time they test a counterattack, they have to reroll it if successful. So these are brown gun rifle teams. So 2 shots move in, 2 shots halted, 1 move in, but they also have a Piat now. So anti-tank 10, 5+ firepower, assault 4+, so fine, but only have 1, which always tends to die for me, but decent for going up against tanks and defending against them. Okay, so the universal carrier is our scout and spearhead unit in the formation. So it's careful, confident, trained, and being a scout unit, counterattacks on a 6, last stand 5, and assault on a 5. So fairly nippy, extending your little deployment bubble. The annoying thing with it is you can only give it a boys anti-tank rifle, which is weird, but like because since the PX are knocking around, but I wouldn't bother because it's only anti-tank 4 and it's terrible, slow firing as well. But it has, with the unit, if they're all intact, 9 shots on the MG, so good against infantry not dug in or if you're trying to pin them down. Okay, and finally we have the motor platoon, the motor company, but it's actually an Indian motor company. So we have 3 full platoons, but that only gets us 4 brand gun teams, a Piat, and a 2-inch mortar in each unit. We have some UCs and 2-inch mortars, 3-inch mortars, sorry, but you can only have 2 of them, and 2 is the max you can have. So supporting them is what you'd expect: M10s, 25-pounders, an OP, Kitty Hawks, Shermans, and Churchills. And we have an artillery expert command card as well. But basically it is designed to attack. You will struggle with so many small platoons, but you do have 3 of them, so they can be everywhere, and you have got plenty of armoured support to be around the table as well, and some aircraft. Okay, so the motor platoon stat-wise is the same as the rifle platoons. The only difference is because these are brand gun teams, their fire output is halted 3, moving 2. So even if they're pinned, they will get 8 rifle shots out in defensive fire. So overall, not too bad. Okay, so as I said, it is actually an Indian motor company. So for 2 points, I had them spare. It does what the Indian Rifle Company does. So enemy units must reroll their first successful motivation test to counterattack an infantry unit in this formation. So be careful what is actually being attacked, because it only applies to infantry units. But overall, not too bad, especially since now we're coming up against more reluctant infantry. Could be very helpful, especially if you maybe do it more around a defensive list. But if you took an objective, again, it'd be fairly difficult to get pushed off. Okay, into support units, my favourite for the British, the M10 SP anti-tank troop. So armour-wise ain't great, just careful, confident, counterattack 6, trained, and assault 5+. So if you bail them, it's 50-50, so be careful with them. You can have them as the 3-inch, so that's 80-12. But pretty much what everyone does is the M10 17-pounder, so it's anti-tank 14, so very good against all armor types, and it's 3+ firepower as well. It does actually have 50 cals, so not bad in terms of shooting infantry dug in, and it has self-defense AA as well. Okay, so the 25-pounders were quite a few lists being favoured over the priests due to the points. So they're careful, fearless, veteran with a 4+ assault is good. They have the Mike target rule and a 4+ gun save. Artillery wise, they're okay. 4+ firepower lets them down on the bombardment, but it is anti-tank 3, and direct fire is anti-tank 9 on a 3+. So overall, fairly decent artillery unit for the points. Okay, so normally I don't take aircraft, but I had the points spare, and there's not that many options in this book. So we have the Kitty Hawk. So aircrafts are hit on 5+ because they are zooming around quite quickly. They're confident, trained, and there's a 3+ aircraft save. The train bit's quite annoying because you'll struggle with the bombs, especially if there's terrain ranging in on a 5+. Bombs themselves not too bad. Can take out tanks with them, but very unlikely depending on how well your opponent rolls their saves. But they have a 2+ firepower, and they have 50 cals, so decent against lightly armored stuff. Maybe like some self-propelled artillery, but it is only a 5+ firepower. The Daimler Armoured Car Troop was used in my lists that didn't have UCs or Stuarts. So careful, confident, veteran, counterattack 6, last stand 5, assault 4+. Front 1, side 1, top 0. Pretty much the same as they were in mid-war. The only difference is now they have access to the Little John adapter, so you can replace this. It does cost you, will increase your unit by +1 point. All you get from it is your anti-tank becomes 8 instead of 7, so +1 might be, you might like it, especially if you have a point spare, but it doesn't have HE. It is overworked, but so is the 2-pounder anyway. So some units I didn't use but are in the book. So the 6-pounder anti-tank platoon, stat-wise, is the same as it was in mid-war, but as you can see now, the gun is firing anti-tank 11 rounds rather than anti-tank 9 in mid-war. So I just thought I'd point this out. So obviously, being more of attacking stance for these lists, didn't really have room for the 6-pounders. But if you want to play defensively, nice little anti-tank gun to put in ambush. But be aware, it is only 4+ firepower. Okay, so final support unit that's new in this book for late war, I suppose, is the Priest Field Troop. So again, I mentioned I prefer 25-pounders or even sextons in later books, although this is by far a much better artillery unit. The problem being is it's 4 points more than your 25-pounders, so 4 points tends to go elsewhere. But there we go, and we'll have a look. Finally, a command card that was used in almost every list that had 25-pounders, and we'll have a look at it now. Okay, so Artillery Expert, a very good card from mid-war that makes it into Fortress Europe, but there it ends. So at the start of the game, after deployment, reposition when you've arranged your markers anywhere on the table. So very good, in my opinion, to deal with dug-in infantry protecting an objective, because basically it's treated as repeat bombardment, so they'll have to re-roll their saves from the start of the game, which is very nice. And that is it from Fortress Europe British. There's not a lot of it, but we'll make up for it in the D-Day British book, because there's a lot more units, a lot more pictures of cards that we get to look at. So until then, hope you enjoy, and I will redo the British Bulge book, because last time I did it was at 120 points, so I brought it down to 100. So hopefully you catch this. If you want to watch the 120 point video now, you can, but I will delete it when the 100 point one goes up.